my personal story of how design has impacted my career. And I have a few slides to share as a jumping off point, and then I can answer questions at the end. So to introduce myself, I'm Claire. I'm the founder of Broadroom Creative Collective. I graduated with a degree in Peace and Conflict Studies in 2013. And I've worked at nonprofits, government agencies, in retail. I started my own business and I founded Broadroom, all since graduating college about 10 years ago. So I've jumped around a lot. A little bit about me and design. So I'm a self-taught designer. I always enjoyed it, from winning a prize in elementary school for making the best embarrassing anti-drug poster, to designing professional end-of-year reports for our six-figure nonprofit. I realized early in my career that design is not an innate talent for many people, people that I was working with, and it was always an asset for me in every job that I've had since graduating. In my business and in my current work as a nonprofit director, I've found that design has been a really powerful tool for engaging with our audience, whether for sharing information, making sales, or getting donations. So today I'm an employee of the nonprofit that I founded, Broadroom. I founded Broadroom in 2018 because I wanted to have a creative space to share with other artists and makers in Sacramento to build community and collaboration among the folks in the studio. Broadroom has since grown into an arts organization that provides affordable studio space to 18 artists, and we run the free art supply closet where we give away free art supplies to anyone who comes in. So as a nonprofit director, I use design daily in my job. I do all of the designs for Broadroom myself, everything from our logo to website, as well as like the mural on the front of our building are all my designs. Good design enables me to effectively communicate our messaging both digitally and in person. Just the overall design vibe inside the studio definitely is cohesive with the rest of our design that you might be familiar with if you've ever looked at our website or Instagram. It helps us to reach the people that we're trying to serve. I think that our design aesthetic at Broadroom kind of skews younger, and definitely people that are younger, who have like a working class background and who are newer to art are the people that we mainly serve with the free art supply closet and our affordable studio space. They're certainly not the only people that we serve, but by and large, our demographic is mostly like millennials and Gen Z folks, and even younger than that, like kids who come in with their parents to the free art supply closet. And I use design to create the merchandise that we sell that benefits our programs also. Okay, and then that's it. On this last slide, I have a couple of ways that you can like find out more about Broadroom or get in touch with me if you ever want to like talk to me outside of like a group thing like this. If you have other questions or something, feel free to like hit me up, or come into the studio, come to the free art supply closet if you're interested. And yeah, that's it for my little slides. And then we can open it up for questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. All right, I'm back. Okay, so yeah, questions, whatever folks want to talk about.
Well, I have one. So
Sure.
you said you have open studio time. How does that work?
So we don't have open studio time right now. When we originally started Broadroom, we had like community studio space, which was like day pass basically type thing. It was kind of like co-working space vibe, but
Mm.
yeah, basically for people who otherwise like couldn't afford to pay rent on a studio space every single month, you could pay much lower fee and have access to the studio. We haven't been doing that since COVID. We shut it down during COVID and switched over to like a more traditional rented studio space model. So right now we have studio space that's rented by folks in the community. When we do have studio spaces that come available, we post about it on like Instagram and send a newsletter thing out to everyone so that folks know that they can apply for studio space in Broadroom.
Cool.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I had a question. What
Yeah.
were some like the challenges you faced sort of like operating and running like Broadroom like all by yourself? And if I recall, last year you mentioned you sort of opened up Broadroom during the pandemic, right? Around that time. Like what were some of the challenges you faced like just doing that?
Yeah, so Broadroom opened in 2018. So we had like a year and a half before the pandemic. So during that time, we were very much focused on events. So we would do like craft fair, makers market type things. Every month we would do like workshops, and it was much more of like a community space where people could come and do stuff and sell their things and learn things and teach things. And then we moved into our current location in 2019, which is much bigger than our original location in Midtown. And when we moved there, we were planning on having like community studio space, having rented artist studio space, and continuing to do art shows and events. And then the pandemic happened at the beginning of 2020. So we had to shift everything that we were doing. We started with, we completely shut down the community studio aspect. We canceled like an entire year's worth of events that we already had on the books. But we were able to get a little bit of funding from the city of Sacramento to start the free art supply closet. So the free art supply closet started in the fall of 2020. It's been around for 2 years now. And through that, we've been able to serve hundreds of people in Sacramento and from all over the place. When people come from like San Jose and San Diego and Nevada just to get free art supplies at the free art supply closet. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That's so cool.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean the pandemic definitely it was scary the first couple of months because I had no idea how we were going to continue, but it also opened up a whole new way for us to like really serve our community. So yeah, things are much different now than they were 3 years ago, but in some ways it's much better than it was 3 years ago as far as like being able to serve the people who need help most, pretty much.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I also was wondering, so I've heard of nonprofits like all the time, obviously, but I was wondering
Mhm.
how you run them because like since it's your job, I was wondering how that
Mhm.
works.
Yeah,
Salary.
so nonprofits, yeah, they're the idea of like calling it a nonprofit is kind of a misnomer because you still want to make money because you have to like fund your programs, you have to pay your staff. I mean, there are some nonprofits that run just on like volunteers and so they don't have to pay anyone. They only have to like make enough money to do whatever their program is. For us, basically nonprofit status just means it's like a tax designation, which means that you're exempt from paying certain taxes to the government, to both federal and state government. And the reason why they give you that exempt status is because you tell them, oh, I'm going to do this thing that benefits the public, and most of our money is going to come from the public. So, yeah, it's a tax designation thing. It's not like super cool or interesting necessarily, but other than that, it's very similar to running a business. There's just fewer taxes that you have to pay, but there's lots of other like reporting that you have to do to basically continually prove to the government that you deserve that tax exemption because you're doing all of these things to benefit the public. So we primarily get our money through grants. We get grants from the city of Sacramento currently, as well as the state of California currently. And we've gotten a couple of like small private foundation grants also. So a lot of my job is doing grant writing stuff, asking for money. And then we get donations. All of the art supplies in the art supply closet are donated by folks in the community. And then we sublet the warehouse so we rent the warehouse, Broadroom rents the warehouse, and then we sublet the studio space to the artists that we share the space with. So we're all sharing the cost of rent. So that covers our overhead as far as like rent of the space, utilities, Wi-Fi, all the things that go along with like renting commercial space. So we make money in a few different ways. And we also like sell some merchandise, but as opposed to a business, we're more reliant on getting grant funding from a government body than like a small business would be. That being said, there's people like Elon Musk, whose entire business model is based on just getting government handouts. So that's a business that kind of is run like a nonprofit, or other like big tech companies that get like angel investors. Nonprofits sometimes have like one benefactor that gives them all of their money, that whatever their work is. So in that way, there's really no difference between a nonprofit corporation and a regular for-profit corporation. So yeah, it's basically just tax stuff is all that's different. So I'm an employee of Broadroom. I'm not like the owner of Broadroom, so I don't get, like dividends or a bonus at the end of the year. If the nonprofit like has a profit at the end of the year, that has to strictly be used to benefit the public. It can't be used to like line the pockets of the founder of the nonprofit, which is another way that is different from like a regular business. That being said, there are like nonprofits that are run in shady ways where the executives pay themselves like millions of dollars when they're supposed to be like solving world hunger. So, I mean, there's shady nonprofits just like there's shady businesses too.
Interesting.
Yeah, like hearing you speak about all this. Your knowledge seems so extensive when it comes to like the business sector. How did you study business? Did you have to study business, or was this sort of just like a thing that you had to like learn while like going through like creating like Broadroom? And like what other skills besides like design did you find yourself having to pick up just like to run the business?
Yeah, so I worked at a couple of nonprofits. I worked at one right out of college. It was a climate change centered nonprofit. And then I did a lot of like web-based and internet-based like activism through there. So I think that that's something that's been very helpful for me running a nonprofit during a pandemic where you have to like do lots of engagement digitally with folks. I worked in retail for actually a pretty long time out of college. And learned a lot about like running a business through there. I worked for like a big company as well as like a small business when I was working in retail, and saw how they each ran things and what I thought was like good and bad and mostly bad about them. The ways that they like exploited their workforce, regardless of whether it was a corporation or a small business, and just how like icky that is, that it's permeated every single part of business in this country. And so I learned a lot about how I don't want to run a nonprofit through that. I started my own business in like 2007, earlier than that, 2015. I was like making stuff. I was weaving and I was doing a lot of like hand dyeing. And I was also like selling vintage. And so through all of that, I had to learn how to do my own taxes, how to like be a sole proprietor, how to, how to have a QuickBooks and like keep track of all of your like spending. And yeah, so I learned a lot about like doing my own business taxes just through running a business. Nonprofit taxes are a little bit different than doing business taxes, but it's still like having some experience with doing taxes for a business is definitely helpful. And yeah, so I didn't go to school for any of that. My degree is basically, it's a human rights degree. And what I do now is very much like centered on art being a human right and believing that everyone should have access to art. So that's how my degree is useful. I learned a little bit about running a nonprofit with my degree, but no like formal schooling in business or art. All of that's just been like self-taught as I go, figuring things out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. From like your like nonprofit work, how like what kind of like practices do you learn just to like maintain like like an ethical business practice for both like your artists and I don't know if you have like employees as well. Like how do you maintain that sort of that fairness and become like a model sort of nonprofit? Yeah.
Yeah, so what we have a few different things. As we only have two employees, so it's myself and then one other employee. So we, because we're such a small team, can like both of us are just very transparent with each other, and I try to be as transparent as possible with like, this is where our money's at right now, this is what we can afford to do right now, this is what we can't afford to do right now. So we're transparent as far as it comes to money. As far as like paying ourselves, I try to be like cognizant of how much money we have in the bank, how much we have coming to us, and paying ourselves as much as we can afford at the time, and keeping the pay level of myself as the director and my employee, who's a program coordinator, as like even as possible. And we, as a nonprofit, have a board of directors, and so they have oversight of me, and the like fiduciary responsibility for them is basically making sure that the money is being used to benefit the public, as opposed to a for-profit corporation where money has to be used to benefit the shareholders. So yeah, they decide like they sign off on how much I get paid, how much Julia, our other employee, gets paid, and they have oversight of like the financial health of the organization. And then when it comes to like how we ethically engage with the people that we serve, our community, the artists in the studio, we have an artist and community committee, which we invite people who are a part of Broadroom in some way, whether that's through like using the free art supply closet, or they're in the art studio, they're volunteers at Broadroom. We invite them to a meeting that we have quarterly, where we basically give like a summary of what's going on with the organization, give them an opportunity to talk about things that, either are working or aren't working, or something that they think needs to be brought to our attention. And so it's a like open kind of town hall style meeting where people can, bring up anything that they think needs to be brought up at that time, and gives us a chance to let all of them know what we're doing kind of behind the scenes, or, what they may not otherwise be totally aware of. And then we, as a community of artists that share that studio space together, we, for the most part, try to like make decisions with some like consensus, or if there's like, when we're inviting in a new artist in the space, we have a panel of artists from the studio that meets the person, interviews them, and then we decide as a panel who's going to move into the studio. So yeah, we try to like make decisions as a group to the best of our ability, and we try to like deal with issues as they come up.
Mm.
in the most ethical way possible. Like if someone potentially has an issue with me, or if there's something that like
Mm.
I can't handle because I'm part of whatever the issue is, then we have like a third party artist in the studio who makes himself available to like mediate situations. So yeah, lots of different things. But
Love that.
that's those are all the things that we're doing. Yeah.
How did you, when you started the business, how did you like spread the word, connect the community to it? Like what kind of methods did you use to really get out there?
Yeah, so I had already been kind of connected with the art and maker scene in Sacramento before starting Broadroom. I was like going to and selling at different craft fairs and art markets around town. So I knew people already that were also kind of looking for something like Broadroom, a place that felt that wasn't so like highly masculine. There's a lot of like art spaces in Sacramento that can feel very much like it's just kind of a broy dudes club. So the idea of Broadroom was to have it be a space that centers like historically underrepresented artists. So folks from the BIPOC community, women artists, LGBTQ artists, people that, you know, haven't traditionally had a space of their own in like the arts scene. So yeah, that was kind of how we initially like came up with the idea and got some traction, was because I just already like had friends in Sacramento that were looking for something like that. But also definitely like just social media. Instagram was like our main thing for the first few years to really get the word out to people who didn't know about us. Since then, like Broadroom has a TikTok now, so we got a lot more people in Sacramento. Surprisingly, found a lot of people have found us through TikTok, but also like everywhere in the country, people found out about the free art supply closet through TikTok. So now there's people that have started free art supply closets throughout the country, like inspired by what we do. So yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah, so definitely like social media has been huge for us on growing Broadroom, getting the word out about Broadroom. And definitely growing the free art supply closet specifically has really been thanks to social media.
Oh, what kind of methods did you use on social media, like keeping up? Did you have like a schedule for posts, or did you post a lot of stories? Like what kind of things did you do to make people notice the account and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Instagram has obviously been hard for a really long time to get any kind of like organic growth on there. It I think we got up to like 6,000-ish followers in like 2019 or something, and then just kind of like stalled out at that for a super long time. In the last like 6 to 8 months, I'd say we've gotten like 3,000 new followers. So we're at like 9-ish K right now. And that I would mostly attribute to one is TikTok, people moving from TikTok to Instagram, finding us there. Two would be like video. I mean, obviously Instagram is pushing video a lot more now. So actually like making reels has been something that has helped a lot. And then as far as like posts, it is so just like across the board. Sometimes I'll post something and it gets like 30 likes or whatever. And sometimes I'll post something and it'll like shockingly get 400. And I really like don't know why. And I mean, so I just don't know on Instagram. I do post on it at least a couple of times a week, and I would say I try to do stories because at least like that keeps you fresh on people's mind. But yeah, I don't have like a super well thought out strategy. I don't like have a schedule when I post, and mostly it's just like when an idea comes to me, I'll post something. I was very rigorous about TikTok for a while. Like I'd say between the end of last year and like spring of this year, I was really like going hard on TikTok because I saw it as having this like huge growth potential that I just didn't see on Instagram anymore. Especially once I realized that people were finding the free art supply closet who live close enough to it to actually come there from
Mhm.
TikTok. I was like, okay, so this is actually worth like an investment of my time. Um, so yeah, we had like one video that had over 1 million views, and then for a while we had a few videos that were getting like a few 100,000 views. So that really like exploded the awareness of the free art supply closet. Um, but then TikTok started to kind of suck also. It kind of like, it's not the same as it was during the pandemic where you would just like post some random thing and get, 1 million views and you're just like, why this video kind of sucks. Um, so yeah, I haven't, it's been a little bit more rough on TikTok also lately. I still post on there, but not as frequently as I was like 6 months ago, just because I don't see the return on the investment of that time as much now. Um, and also the end of the year tends to be a very busy time for Broadroom, so I just don't have as much time to spend on social media. But yeah, I mean, it's worth like investing some time in. I don't have a great strategy for it. But when you're having fun with it, then it's like worth posting on, I think. When I try to force myself to post something on there, then it always is just crappy and it doesn't do very well. So yeah, but unfortunately also videos, like having to make videos is just like the thing now. Posts just are, I don't know, they're over at this point, I think. So
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you manage all your like your time and stuff? Do you have like some strategies of like organization? Do you like have a schedule when it comes to all of this?
Yeah, I when I started a business, I thought it was going to be great because I was going to be able to set my own schedule and have a lot of like time, just like free time to do whatever I want. And instead, I have to be extremely rigorous about like when I actually go into the studio so that I actually get all the stuff done I need to get done. I am in the studio at least like 5 hours a day, working Tuesday through Saturday. I take Sundays and Mondays off. I'm pretty strict about keeping my weekend because it's very easy to just work 7 days a week when you work for yourself.
Mhm.
And then I have very long, insane to-do lists of just like a brain dump of everything that needs to get done. I make like quarterly to-do lists. So I started a to-do list in September for September through the end of the year with everything that I knew that I was going to have to do before the end of the year. And that gets like added to as things pop up that I have to get done. But yeah, I have like this crazy huge master document of every single thing that I have to do. And then I just sit down on my computer and like chip away at those things. Basically, I have like a schedule of when each of those things is due and when to get them done. And yeah, I rely heavily on Google Calendar and my to-do list to like make sure that everything gets done. And still some things don't, but yeah, that's and also taking medication for anxiety is huge for my ability to get stuff done.
Do you? I don't know if you mentioned this, but did you have any like events planned in the future?
Mm, we are planning a event for Giving Tuesday, which is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So there's like Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday, and then Giving Tuesday, which is basically the like make a donation this time of year also. Don't just buy a bunch of stuff. Um, so for Giving Tuesday, which is I think November 29th this year, we're planning a event where we'll be accepting donations for the free art supply closet, as well as doing some kind of like craft thing together with anyone who comes in, where we'll be like decorating boxes that we use to deliver free art supplies through our free art cart program, which delivers free art supplies from the free art supply closet to folks with limited mobility who can't come into the free art supply closet. So yeah, we're doing that. And then we have the holiday art supply drive going from November 25th to January 10th. It's not really an event at the studio, but basically people can donate art supplies at bins that we'll have at like partner locations. Typically, if you want to donate art supplies to us, you have to bring them to Broadroom. But during this time of year, you're able to donate them to our partner locations where they just might be closer to you. So they're more convenient. Basically, it's modeled off of Toys for Tots, but it's art supplies for everyone instead. So those are like eventy type things. As far as like art shows or anything, we don't have anything planned right now. We've been doing open studios so that folks could come in and like see the artists in their studios during the summer. We'll probably bring that back in the spring. It's kind of cold in the studio this time of year and dark in the studio this time of year. And a lot of our artists are just super busy with events and markets and things and at the end of the year. And then January and February are pretty miserable in our warehouse as far as like the weather. So yeah, probably in the spring we'll bring back our open studio days.
Nice. Well, if you ever want us to get information out, we have, group chats with the entire design community and at Fox State. So if you ever want us to spread information, we definitely are open to that.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If we have any other like follow-up questions, what are some like best ways to contact you?
My email. So I can. Do you want me to put it in the chat, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. There you go.
Sweet. Well, I think we're gonna close it out right now. But
okay.
Thank you so much, Claire, for like all you want to.
Yeah, it was great.
I'll definitely be sending you some follow-up questions because I'm like.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, really cool. I'm really
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for doing all you're doing and supporting like the small art community that we have in Sac.
Yeah,
I think that's really
of course. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it was good to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Bye. Have a nice night.
Bye.